All right. Welcome back to Eyes Open Media. We're gonna talk about Africa. I did make a post. Actually, where is that post that I made? Let me actually go to my let me go here and go here, and I'll show you guys the post that I made. Okay, so I made this post about Africa. Um, okay, so here it is on my personal page here. And it says Africa is not poor, and Africans do not need any help. What Africa needs is the world to stop going into Africa and stealing and raping and taking their minerals, natural resources, gold and silver. Then maybe, just maybe, there wouldn't be skinny babies and children and poor people all over Zionist TV networks. You rape the land and then put them on TV and act like you are their savior, basically. You deceiving spirits, I rebuke you. Shaking my head, wake up, Africa, and defend your land, because China is going to do the same thing the Europeans have done to you. Wake up. Okay, so as you guys see here, let me go through the comments here. My man OJ, Mr. Bitcoin did have some comments here, and he says it's a bit more complicated than that. The people who do humanitarian work and aid are not the same people who went there years ago and caused all the havoc and devastation, but forget also the leaders of pretty much every African country and how they build their palaces and rape their own countries with their own benefit. It is really not a simple issue. Yeah, and he's right about that. And those people that are the leaders of these African countries are put in by Europeans and the Zionists. So, and to keep the agenda going, okay? Because if you don't keep the agenda going, they will remove you. Okay, so and the agenda is to remove the resources out of the land, so the colored people don't have the wealth of the land. Okay, because that doesn't go well with their brainwashing of, blacks are not important, blacks are poor, and whites are supreme. So if Africa's rich and looking like Dubai, then we got a problem. Okay, and so they put the people in the leadership in there, and they just rape the land, and they do not give anybody in that land any type of benefits to the land. If you are a citizen of a country, you are supposed to reap the benefits of that land, and they don't do that. And they keep people in those positions, and they keep going into Africa to make sure it's running smoothly to keep the agenda going. Okay, so and Deb says, and keep Bill and Melinda Gates out of there with their needles and vaccines and other nasty injections. Yes, that's another thing that they do to Africa and also Middle East and also South America and colored countries that don't have up to par education about needles and vaccines and stuff. They send in people like Satanists like Bill Gates and with his smiling face, and other people like him, and they just go in there and they trial and error vaccines on people. And we just heard recently that India has kicked out Bill Gates and Melinda Gates Foundation because they were just putting all types of needles into Indian children and people, and people were just dying and getting all types of diseases and stuff. And they found out that it's from Bill Gates foundation. So it's just terrible what they're doing with these Zionists and these New World Order and these secret secret society members do. They come with a smile, but they're really there for destruction. They're really there to wipe out the colored people, and because their agenda is to get the world down to 500 million people. And right now in the world, we're almost around 8 billion people in the world, and 500 million, that's a huge loss of life, right? So, and they're going to try to do it through vaccines, needles, injections, creating viruses and all types of stuff, and just spreading it all throughout you know, countries they call third world, but they're not really third world countries. If you stop raping their land and taking their minerals and resources and gold and silver, they would be just as rich as everybody. They are just as rich as everybody else, but because they keep taking and raping the land, they call them third world countries. If you stop, if the Europeans and now China's going to do the same thing, and how China's going to do it is they're gonna start paying off people's debts. And that's gonna be their way of doing it. I told you guys this before that was gonna start happening, and then we starting to happen already. As China is going to start paying off a lot of African countries' debts, and they're going to force those African countries to not use the dollar anymore, but to use the Chinese yuan, and then they're going to be able to rape the land of Africa. So it's gonna be, it's gonna move from the Western world doing it to China doing it. Okay, and I'm pretty sure Russia will probably come in there and grab some things as well. But the African people have to step up and stop this. They have to remove the criminals that are in place in their government. And they also have to reject China, and they have to reject the Europeans and the Western world, and they have to protect their land, okay? Because China's going to do the exact same thing the Europeans have done, okay? Because of course, dude, we're and here's the thing, when a lot of people, are like, man, the Europeans, the Europeans are going to continue. No, they're not. The Europeans are not going to continue because Russia and China, as I told you guys before and over again for 4 years now, Russia and China are going to take over Europe. Okay, you can say all you want. You don't have to believe me. You're gonna watch it and you're gonna see it. Russia and China, I told you guys this before, China is going to take over all of these countries south of the equator, and they're going to take the countries south of Europe, okay, and basically southern Europe. Russia will take all the countries above the equator, and they're going to take most of the northern parts of Europe, okay? So it's that simple, okay? Yeah, and so Africans, protect your land, and how do you protect your land? Number one, education. You got to start reading, and a lot of the African areas have computers. So it's not like they don't get access to stuff. They need to get educated on what is going on, what has happened, and how to protect themselves from the raping of the Western world, and especially the Europeans who have came in there and just that they came to kill, steal, and destroy. Now, of course, Africans have to also, love Africans, because like who is it over here? Like Michael says, yeah, they've came in there, but Africans also, like Boko Haram and all these terrorist groups and selling and sex slaves going on in Africa and things of that nature, that all needs to stop as well. Okay, but here's the thing, a lot of that stuff comes because the land has been raped and stolen from them. And that mindset and that trauma of it makes people desperate to make money, okay? And so they get into selling girls, selling boys, selling children to make money. They get into radical groups. Where do radical groups come from? People that don't have money. They're looking for money. And so if you come into a radical group, you get to have money, right? They'll clothe you and feed you and give you a home, okay? And so because they don't have, because their land has has been raped from them. They're looking for safe havens. It's the same thing that's going on in the Middle East while people are joining ISIS and Daesh and stuff because they don't have nothing. So when you stop doing if you stop raping their land and taking all their stuff, you know what I mean, then you wouldn't have Boko Haram and sex slaves and things of that nature. You'll have people that are working. You have people that are rich, and they're supposed to be rich because they have a lot of minerals and land, and it's beautiful in Africa, right? So I've been there. I've been to Africa before. So it's beautiful, right? So animals that you've never seen before, right? I mean, just animals alone, it makes a place beautiful, right? Because animals have different colors and they look good. The only thing animals I don't like is when they start eating you, right? Other than that, animals are beautiful. Animals are good. So and then you got jungles, you got animals, you got forests, you got land, you got you know what I mean. So you got lots of land in Africa, you got waterfalls and things of that nature. So there's nothing, so what happens is the Europeans, said, man, we need that. And so they started, going out there and raping that land and tricking them and deceiving the Africans for years and years and years, man. So it's sad because that country, that continent, Africa, has a lot of minerals, has a lot of wealth in it, and the citizens in Africa don't see that results. Only a very few, and those very few are handpicked by the Europeans, to continue the agenda of just raping the land. The homie Keisha says facts, and she was just in Africa. She was actually in Ghana, and she had a marvelous time, as you can see one of her pictures with a waterfall here. Okay, and I believe she just rolled out to Vegas. So anyways, so be safe out there, Keisha. And Cal says they must turn back to God. They must end Boko Haram and others. Yeah, that's true too. Yep. And Jay says drop a drool on them. Okay, so and Greg says that you also have to point the blame to the corrupt governments in Africa that allow foreign countries access to the country. Yeah, but the reason why they're allowed foreign access because the foreign people are the ones who appoint those government people. Okay, so that's why it makes sense, right? If you're European and you want access to the land, you're going to point the people, you're going to make sure the people are in place that will give you access to the land. Okay, so yeah, man, it's awful what's happened to Africa, because if you look back at Africa, it is a beautiful place. They call it the motherland. I don't know, I'm not going to get into the motherland stuff because we know about biblical days. And biblical days, it was Israel, right? It was Egypt and Israel and modern day Iraq, right? It was Persia, Iran, it was Iran and Persia days. It was Iraq. It was Israel. It was Egypt. That's the biblical days, right? It wasn't, the Bible doesn't talk much about Africa. Okay, it's really right in that area of the Middle East of Iraq and Egypt, and the Israelites coming out of Egypt, right? The Israelites, and the Hebrews coming out of the 12 tribes coming out of Israel, but and coming out of that bondage of Pharaoh in Egypt and things of that nature. So that's the biblical times, and the Garden of Eden and things of that nature, right? So that's more of the Middle East and Jerusalem, where Christ, born in the manger. I think that's the Middle East. So for Africa to be the motherland, I don't know. I'm not going to go into that, but either way, Africa should not be struggling. We shouldn't be seeing little babies and skinny babies on Zionist television. If you stop raping the land, and you wouldn't have to go out there and act like a savior to give them water and terrible food. You stop destroying the land and let them live. And Africans, protect your lands and remove the corrupt people from your government. And I think you'll see a 180 turnaround, 365.